Well, hello everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantal, your hostess with the mostest for sure. Where I have with me again Miles Johnston from the Basis Project, and we're going to be talking about Ireland and how the enemy attacks and has attacked Ireland in the past. I often mention Ireland and the Irish people, who were probably one of the most highly attacked nations in our history. Interesting. And of course, Miles being an Irishman himself, no one better. But before Miles comes along, let's just check out our schedule for the week. So let me just pull that up and check it out. So yes, of course, right now we have Miles Johnston. Tomorrow morning, sorry, not tomorrow, Wednesday, Dr. York Prince. He'll be on Solutions with Shanti. Dr. Prince is actually a German doctor, but living in New Zealand, and ex-medical doctor that has transitioned from medical health into holistic health. So from, all energy work, frequencies, sort of bridging, I guess is the word I'm looking for, from the medical into the more natural, organic health. So he's going to be a regular guest on the show. Join us at 9 o'clock Central Africa time. Sorry for Americanos. I know you guys are somewhere in midnight and beyond there. On on Solutions with Shanti, we're going to be talking about holistic health. Stress is the core of every illness and dis-ease in the body. So we're going to be talking about that. So join us. Great guest that is. And then, of course, Double Trouble with Jesse later on Wednesday. So you see me 3 times on Wednesday. In the Field with Shanti on Thursday. And I will be talking about MK Ultra and MK Often. What is the difference and how do they use it in the system? And of course, Dr. Dennis Carroll. You probably won't see me over the weekend. I've got a family wedding on. So I think I'm busy on Friday, but if I'm not, I will be in. So please just check the schedule. And then, of course, so most of the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm off, but we will be doing rehams and recordings over the weekend. Yay! But without any further ado, let's bring on Miles Johnston. Oops, there he is. Where is he?
Hello.
Hello, Miles. So good to have you back. How are you?
Well, we always talk about the weather here, and we always talk about the weather in Ireland and all that sort of stuff, but we're actually in Wiltshire, sunny Wiltshire. It's bloody freezing outside. It's that sort of little bit where it's you feel the temperature because it's wet and it hasn't frozen, and it's bleeding cold here. But it's that we had snow last night, and then it all melts. But we have got the crocuses up and the snowdrops and things, so it is sort of technically spring, I suppose. No, it's still winter. Those flowers.
Sure.
Wow. So it's really good to see you, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. And I see love behind you.
Yes, my candles.
Love. And you're hurt. Should we all listen? What have you done?
No, I'm not hurt. I'm going to tell you, everyone is asking me. My cat scratched me. We were having a friendly tussle. And I kind of left it. And then I was in my garden. And in the same scratch, I got stuck by a poisonous thorn. And it swelled up. And I really should be doing something medical with it, but I'm not. I'm choosing to heal it myself, and it is. So I'm using THC oil, and that's why I bandage it up, so that the THC oil doesn't actually rub all over everything, and it just protects it, so I don't knock it around. So I'm not.
Say this.
I
I've come
haven't
up with
been.
something.
Yes.
Oh yeah, oh Jesus, don't you bloody! I think the cat scratched it because there was something there already.
Right, exactly. I know
It was
that.
attacking
The cat
something.
was, yes, the cat is showing me where my body needs healing. I'm very well aware of that. And it's not just physical, it's spiritual, emotional, everything.
Well,
So
it's got
I
to be
just turned
spiritual,
60.
emotional, and everything. We can't have it just being physical.
Exactly.
For crying out loud! Now the other thing that's
Exactly.
just happened here, the sun has just come out. It's coming in from over there. God,
You see
look at
how
this.
significant is that timing?
Yeah, brilliant, sun, brilliant. Which is why I'm actually sitting this way rather than that way, because it's not in my eyes. But you can see, I've even strategically placed a light to light this place up. I'll see if I can turn it up. I think it's maximum. Hold on. Jeez. Can we do this?
No worries.
In television, we have a phrase: "You can never fight the sun." So that's it.
Exactly. Who
I'm
would want to
probably
fight
going
the
to go
sun
behind the
anyway?
clouds now. So there it is. The second time the sun's come out, I think.
Exactly.
We're talking
It's like
about
morning,
Ireland and
morning.
things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I want to know all about Ireland because we've known for a long time that the Irish were very, very attacked by the British, right? In yea gone yonder years. So maybe take us through that. And then of course the potato crops were poisoned. So that sent the Irish people into famine. Now I'm a great believer, and I just want to preface this with the show with this because that's why I have experts like yourself on. I'm a
No,
great
I'm not an
believer that
expert. Hold on here. The first thing that an expert should do is never admit to being an expert.
well, that's what I can call you one. That's what I can call you one. You're not admitting it. I'm observing. That's my observation. Okay, so I'm allowed to. So from that, I mean, we've seen how from the very beginning, and we know the Irish are of the first tribes, nations, right, recorded. So there's got to be some very, very powerful Irish medicine that they are after. That's my opinion. Yes. And when we understand that, and of course we are like a lot of the Druidism and stuff, and I know that's been used a lot in the system, but we understand as well with all the stuff, it's been inverted. So I would love for you just to give us more. We're also I'm just thinking too fast because that also brings us into like the Fae, the elementals. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. There's just a little bit of a freeze there. That's all. Hello. Yeah, keep talking. You're fine.
Yeah. So, it also brings us into the elementals because the Irish are also very big on the elementals and nature spirits, stuff like that, which, of course, when you're looking at Christian theology, tells you it's evil. Now, I don't believe that. I believe that it can be used for anything. So there's a lot of flack that the Irish take.
We're going to sort of go into this, but there are a couple of really important books made by independent researchers, which are absolute gold dust in terms of how far we go back. The thing about Ireland is people have a convenient datum where they start their history, and one of the, if we want to go back further, I mean half the country was covered in ice for a start. So anybody who says they were there beforehand has got to shift things backwards. But there are two really important researchers who did an awful lot of work on this. And it's the late Andrew Power. And I knew Andrew Power personally. And he published a book called Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs. And there's only 1,000 copies of that. Now, he was well into the knowledge of the matrix and the computerization of reality. And somebody who will remain nameless was sent a PDF of the book. And this is the cover of the book. And you can just about see it there. And this is, now you've got, it's all in the pictures. You've got a comet or something coming in. You've got the three popular pyramids of Egypt, because we all know there's tons of them and they're all over the world. You've also got a Celtic type bracelet there. And then you've got the I've just forgotten it. It's this building at the bottom. That was built before Stonehenge, and when they restored it, they put all that white limestone to make it all very pretty. But that wasn't the way it was originally built. I think it's called Newgrange. Forgive me. And the point about Newgrange is that is the entrance to the cairn, and that's where on Christmas, on the 21st of the month, when the true New Year happens, you can see the sun. It's aligned to the sun. So when the sun rises in those 3 days, it goes straight through into this inside of this cairn. Now, the point about this is on the field, which has the River Boyne, which is in that area where the River Boyne is, and that's where there was a very important battle, which wasn't a battle, it was a ritual, and this is all in this book. The Battle of the Boyne, 1690, I think it was not a battle. It was a ritual between a king and a prince. The king, I think it was, don't quote me on it, the king came across the river, okay, the River Boyne, and met the prince. Now, the point about the River Boyne is that symbolizes the galaxy, okay? So when you have a king coming across the galaxy, you're already talking about somebody coming from far, far away. And they crossed the River Boyne and then came and had a ritual. Okay.
What does Boyne mean? What is Boyne?
Boyne is that's just the area. Boyne, Boyn, the River Boyne. And that will have some kind of tremendous name reason. I mean, these places are called these areas for reasons. But the Battle of the Boyne, the Battle of the River Boyne, and that river goes through, snakes through Ireland. And the point is that Andrew, turn it round, has got the pyramids and something coming from space, the comet of something. Okay? So there's an awful lot of symbolism in this. Now, this, the information that Andrew Power compiled is included in a very, very important set of books. So these are heavy. These are The Irish Origins of Civilization. And there they are. And I went through my upstairs to get these books. And these are by a brilliant researcher called Michael Tazarian. And I got these in 2008. There it is, January 11, 2008. Now these, okay, that's 2008. So if I hold this up a little bit, there's a whole, I don't think it's fair to even mention a little bit of these, but look at these beings on the front of this book. Can you see that? Again, my ring lights.
Oh, yeah, now I now I can, yes.
Okay, so look at those different beings. This is Michael Tazarian's work. Now, Michael borrowed and gives reference to Andrew Power's work in this. And I'm just opening it up on this. You know, the Masons, G. You know, I mean, this is absolutely going to trigger so much. Now, the other thing is that's on this book is all these spirals on the second volume of it.
Wow.
Now, those spirals are Scharbinger spirals. It's what the Nazis were looking at. the Irish Druids, Judeo-Christian monarchs and churchmen. The other little thing we've got to blow the whistle on is one of the most hated persons in Ireland is Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell came and there was a battle near the Battle of Boyne, and he went to Ireland and slaughtered everything. The worst one, and a lot of people really know about St. Patrick, is he wasn't a saint, he was a butcher. He was sent by Rome to massacre and kill the villages that did not break from the Celtic church of the Celtic Christian church and come under the rule of the Roman church.
Right.
Now he caused so much death and destruction. He actually went back to the Pope and says, "Look, it was a team of people massacring all around Ireland." And he went back to the Pope and he says, you go back and you complete it. Now, that's why he's not a saint. It's a bit like one of those myths where Christopher Columbus discovered America. I mean, the Irish were dealing with America years, long ago. So the point about this is that this is the Judeo-Druidic church. And so essentially the Christian, the Druidic so-called Christianity is the early sectors of that. I mean, this is where Christ came to I don't want to get too detailed on all this, but the point is that Christ was meant to have come to Glastonbury. So the Druidic church evolved into what became the Christian church. And what the Romans didn't want is this extremely advanced and very sympathetic so-called Christianity. They could not have anybody independently controlling that. And this actually comes through that the vestiges of the Druids at that time when the Romans invaded Britain, they were massacred, and there was a huge series of battles, and eventually the Druids left in Wales were exterminated to the extent that the Menai Straits, which is where Anglesey is, that last little bit of land that they had reached, were massacred. And this is where the whole thing, like the Red Hand of Ulster is, and literally the Straits of the Menai Straits, which sounds like a really big strait, but it's a very narrow part of land between North Wales and the Isle of Anglesey. That was covered in blood. It made the sea go red with blood. So we have a catastrophic attack on the older empathic religions, which were then wiped out by Rome. And then Rome ties in with what's called the Venetian cult, otherwise known as the Doom cult. And this is still with us today in all the politics we've got in Europe, the Fabian society, the Fabian socialism, which has taken absolute, total, pathological control of everything, right? So we're going back to the very distant past. And these books by Michael Tazarian, Michael Tazarian was not a fully qualified individual. So for him to actually get access to the libraries in Northern Ireland and in parts of, this is an absolute must, this book. And he gave an awful lot of talks on all this way back in the late 90s and 2000s. So, I mean, for this to be published, when you see the scale of this, just the living face of the sun, and this is, I'm really just scattering all around this. This book is absolutely, get this mouse off. You can see there. So this book, and Michael Tazarian did so many presentations and lectures on this, but because he wasn't actually a student in any of the university libraries, he had to sneak in to do his research. He worked tirelessly to do his work and research, but he wasn't allowed to do so because they kicked him out of these libraries. The amount of work that he did to make to make these. It's unbelievable. So it wasn't as if he could, as a student, get access. Again, this is how knowledge is restricted. You have to be a student. And of course, then the universities today are just laughing stocks of programming because they're all run by this Fabian technocratic agenda to wipe us out. This is where the alien presence comes, and that's why what that comet is all about. So these books, I don't know where you can get the books now. I mean, I've had these books for 20 years. And a lot of these speakers, I don't see anyway. The point is, get these books. Now, Michael Tazarian has, I think he's got an Egyptian name, a Tazarian. It's a mix between. Just imagine a Belfast man with a tan talking like a machine gun. Michael Tazarian is a man from the big city of Belfast, and once you get them talking, it's like a machine gun. And he barely takes a breath. He'll say hello, if you're lucky, and then 3 hours later, he'll finish. So he's hard work. He's a tremendous academic, but not the official way. He had to do all this, and this is a huge resource where essentially we're going back to the prehistory after the Hyperboreans. Now, Hyperboreans and the tribe of Dan, we've heard of these ancient races, and that comes from the west of Ireland. There were forts on the Irish coast to defend against a civilization from west of that. Okay? So some of this is leads on to Atlantis and other mysteries. But you've got these strange beings on the front, okay? And where those are and what their garb is, and this then became the tribe of Dan, the Tuatha Dé Danann, which is very rare for me to actually say that in what first go. And then we have other aspects of arrivals from other places. And this is in the west of Ireland, west of Northern Ireland, and those beings, we visited that. This is near Enniskillen. Now you can just about see how they almost look like greys, very narrow skulls, wide eyes. These are actually ETs, which crashed in Ireland, possibly 2000 BC. Now, when you see the way the fingers on these stones, they've got one on both sides. You got the same image on both sides. You got two of them back to back, and they have 6 fingers. Also, this is the book of Sacred Ireland, the Traveller's Guide to Sacred Ireland. This is Ireland, right? But look how thin the similar book for England is, because England has lost so many of its ancient sites due to the fact there's 60 million people living on the bloody place. And you can see that face is there again. So this is evidence that there have been arrivals in Ireland. Yes. And there's another thing which I was printing out just before we started. And this is in the wonderful, wonderful Loch Ness, which is the biggest freshwater lake in Europe. It's not that big, but it's certainly no Great Lakes. So this is right in the center of Northern Ireland, Loch Ness. Okay. Now there's an important little let's get this over here. There's an important little round lake there, which ended up happening approximately 700 AD 700. Now, this is where there's another little problem. This lake is perfectly round. And this lake, there it is. This lake is the blast damage from an explosion of something which arrived approximately AD 700. And the name of this in Irish, and I can't remember the name, is Those Who Came From Above.
Right.
Now, this is in the middle of Northern Ireland.
AD.
It's now a nature reserve, but essentially that happened because something came in and went bang.
Right, from above.
Okay,
Okay, fantastic.
so we've got the arrivals of people from somewhere else embedded with the pharaohs, Ireland, land of the pharaohs, ancient arrivals, Atlantis just off the coast, southwest of Ireland. There's a place which literally comes into this. This is in the Atlantic Ocean. This is 300 miles off the coast of Cork, on the sort of extreme bit of the island as it sticks out. And that is where there was an island would literally appear out of the sea. Physically, you could land on it, and it's on ancient maps. It's called High Brazil. Brazil. Now, there is a whole tribe of gypsies called Brazils or Brazils, and they are often intimately involved with the British military, because they're very good at doing certain things, such as making types of concrete which builds seamless walls in underground bases and facilities just by chance, right? All these little bits of odd stuff. This goes back a long, long time. Normally, when you build concrete, you have got to have breaks in it, expansion cracks. So a lot of the roads that you built, when you drive over these roads, go bum, 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 because there's got to be an expansion track. But if you notice that when you see these concrete roads along British military bases, which you can see just as a simple example in plain sight, you have continuous flow concrete. There's no expansion cracks. And likewise, the tunnels are continuous flow. Now, they've cracked this scientifically now, because they can do it for motorway bridges and continuous concrete on motorways. But that's where the secrets come from in the ancient past, with the gypsies, the so-called gypsies, these tribes, unique DNA from certain ancient surviving races, such as the Basques, Hungarians, certain races over there. And this is what was so unique about the Irish, which is why they get into an awful lot of bother, because there's been a great deal of effort, shall we say budget, to stop the Irish from working properly. And right now we have a situation where, as you mentioned, there was the potato famine. Now, in order to understand that and the consequences of that, just before we go too much further, you've got this ancient, well, I've mentioned this before, just don't mix the thing. This is the original book by Michael Shrimpton, Spy Hunter. And that is, that's the first edition. And this is going back a couple of years. Spy Hunter by the renowned barrister and intelligence specialist Michael Shrimpton, one of the most intriguing books you will ever read. A fascinating alternative look at the history of espionage from the 11th century to the to today. And this is where the history of the CIA is involved. And that book is now available worldwide now as the third edition, which I showed last week. And this is where the Germans, but we're now getting mixed into much more recent history, where we have the Germans. The name of this is a very long name, and if I put my finger here, the Deutsche something or other, you can just about read that book, that name. Let's get my finger here. Oh God. The name of this is between my two fingers. It's a very long word, all in one, otherwise known as the DVD. And the front of this book has got the man who was running it after World War II, because we did not win the war. And this is where the EU is created, and look at what the EU has been doing. And this guy, he had access to Area 51. He ran the CIA, and he was president of the United States. And he's an asset, George Bush, he's an asset of this secret organization. And there's a lot of stuff being released in the last month about how far that the Germans, and it's important not to blame German people. They were bombed to hell in World War II. But this is the insidious callousness of those who take control. They are in human bodies, but they're not from around here.
Not human. Okay? They're not human. I agree with you. Miles, I want to maybe just reverse a little bit, if you don't mind. Let's backtrack a little bit to the Brazils, the gypsy Brazils that you were talking about, that they contained, that they obviously had they harbored a lot of secrets. Now, I mean, the gypsies are known, I think they have a lot of people a little bit nervous because they certainly are an different, unique, and very well, they're very, I mean, if you think about a gypsy, you think about a gypsy fortune teller. So they're obviously into prophecy or fortune telling, that sort of stuff. They definitely have gifts, right? Obviously some spiritual gifts that they use, and whether it's for positive or negative, that's irrelevant right now. But I would love to find out from you more, because from what you're saying, when whatever it was, those who came from above landed in plus minus 700
about
AD.
700 AD, and the biggest single battle that ever happened in Ireland happened very close to that time, near where I lived in Northern Ireland. It was a massacre, and they only found out about it when they built what we call in that part of Northern Ireland, we had the M1. Some huge battle happened, and there's another little problem here. We've got a 1,000-year error in our history. So what happened was an awful lot of gravestones, which had 3 numbers on them, were updated with a number in front of them. You can actually see this in some of the old graves. And there's a little bit of a problem here. And so our most recent history might not be as recent as we think it is, or as distant as we think it is. And that comes into something happening around the 1690, 700 mark. So the Battle of the Boyne was 1690. It's coming up to the 1700s. You had the French Revolution, and you had the American Revolution. Now, I beg to maybe have an error there. You had the American Civil War, and when the American Battle of Independence. But during the American Civil War, there were Prussian generals backing one side of the conflict in America. And it's the Prussians who are the key central area where a lot of this stuff connects in terms of mind control, and how the Prussian king was a bit annoyed that his battles weren't going too well and there wasn't enough killing. So what he developed was, because they're all nice people, Europeans fighting against Europeans. I mean, we're all basically not a very big place, and you didn't want to kill the other person. But he managed to develop a mechanism of training his army to kill more efficiently. And I had this problem in World War I. We weren't killing enough of the other people. We're bloody playing football with the Germans on Christmas Day, for God's sake. That's not the way that we want the battle to work. So the psychology and the mechanisms of mind control came from that kind of era to make sure that we got more killing going on in our armies. And that type of control was embedded in the education system. So this is coming from many areas, but the key to it is, how can we kill more humans more efficiently? And who would do a thing like that? It wouldn't be a human. So we're already pointing again and again to some kind of arrival from above.
Exactly. How fascinating. How
And that is
fascinating.
the point about mentioning Spy Hunter, because the DVD were responsible, the precursor to the DVD were responsible for poisoning the Irish in the potato famine and disseminating and getting the Irish to leave and disperse. The same thing's
Why?
happening
Explain
today
that.
because of the
Explain.
unique abilities of the Irish and the way that they work and think. And remember that who runs Britain but these families,
Yes.
right? And then we go back further. There's a brilliant lady here called Lucy Wyatt, and she's done an awful lot of work into what's called the Doom Cult from Venice, the Venetian Doom Cult. And they infected and spread across all of the controlling royal families of Europe. So this is an infection of killing into these high elites. And what happens with the Epstein stuff? It's all about human children trafficking and massacring, snuff movies and killing. And that's endemic with the entire controlling structure of what we're dealing with right now. It's everywhere.
When you talk about the special gifts of the Irish, I get that. Take us to the potato famine. Take us to how they did it, why they did it, what.
The key modus operandi of these people is poisoning. Right. If you have poisoning involved, that comes up as an alert, as a modus operandi. So what they were doing was they poisoned, and what happened in Ireland was that the controlling elite who were controlling Ireland were selling the food for export while it was not being given to the local people. Yes. And they were then chased and moved out of Ireland to America. The same thing's happening to Ireland right now. You have these immigrants going right across Europe, and remember, who's running Europe? Who's actually the callous people running Europe? Hungary's trying to stop them, the immigrants coming to their country. They're going to be fined. They're now trying to get rid of that. This is present day. And now Ireland, the three prime ministers of England, Scotland, well, not England, but London, effectively, were all, before this pandemic situation, were all declaring they were not foreign or they were not native to the indigenous islands or government structures of where they were coming from. They came from other places. So it was announced by a lot of the key to this is, in terms of Ireland in recent history, is that the key established figures who created Ireland in the modern era, i.e. the 20th century, were all assets of this DVD intelligence, secret intelligence asset. They were all agents. Lloyd George, Eamon de Valera, Michael Collins. So the key people who actually arranged the partition of Ireland weren't doing anything for the actual people of Ireland. They were setting up something. And it involved the royal family as well, because if you want to actually ask about Irish history, you've got to talk to Sinn Féin, because they are a dedicated party run on the party lines of Fabian, the Fabian agenda to dehumanize and transhumanize society, i.e. the Fabian social agenda, which gets deep. All of the main people in the political party of the Labour Party, these key aspects were all Tony Blair's, for want of a better term. And that's what's happening right now in England with the existing politics of the day. But what happened was, for a start, the north of Ireland, they industrialized. And there was a large population, the Night of the Long Knives in France, where the Huguenots had to leave and run for their lives, and they ended up in Ireland A lot of them ended up in Ireland, and they brought textiles to the north of Ireland. So you have a race chased out of a country, and likewise, you've got right now happening with all these other people coming from Africa or Eastern. I mean, why are they being chased out? They've been told there's a better thing, go and move over there. So this is a similar modus operandi, right? Are we getting here? Is it working? So the North was then set up to go through the first stage of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so this took people from the land and put them into factories to build, to make Irish linen or to make ships or aircraft or whatever. So that section in the North was being manufactured to do a particular purpose. The other thing about Northern Ireland is it's an enclosed demographic loop of a controlled society, and an awful lot of things are performed and done in Northern Ireland because they get good data about how this is going to happen elsewhere. The other thing which happened in Ireland in the North was they started to modify the population with what I understand is the blood group B is a more compliant society, which is easier to control. So they were testing these programs out in the North. Now you had, summarizing this, you then have the situation where partition all happened in the early part of the 20th century. And this was all very well organized. And the key to the people doing the organization were the Prussian or Germanic intelligence assets, otherwise control, because there's a very strong connection with Ireland and Germany. My father's family in the early part of the 20th century were sent to learn High German in the more eastern part of Germany. So why did they all learn German? It's not as if you could sort of nip there and sort of say hello. So my family were very close to Germans. And I had a very, very close friend, and she's a very fine lady. As you well know, the Irish speak better English than the English. And she's a very eloquent lady, and she spoke German. And she was a direct blood relative of Michael Collins, who was assassinated by De Valera after to end the Irish Civil War. So you got a lot of sort of things happening here in the control panel: foreigners, Germanic control, the whole thing about the world war and all that sort of stuff. And this is there's a focus by a Germanic control asset. I mean, effectively, Ireland is a client state of Germany. And that's why it's been Europeanized so much in the Republic of Ireland in the North. Again, they're keeping that social order and experimentation very restricted to that area. You have these various religious zealots who are, hello? You told me to just keep talking. Chantel, I think we may have lost the recording. It's still counting here. So hello, you've just come back from my perspective. So the point about it is that, oh, I can't hear you. Hello? Yeah, I think we'll just keep talking.
Sorry, Miles. You just keep talking. My internet is in and out, but the viewers can hear you. So yeah, just carry on.
Yeah, so I'll just keep talking. So the point about this is, I'm trying to sort of contain 2 to 3 or 4 or 5,000 years of history and bring it up to why things happened so far in the past and the same things happening now. And there are strong indications of external arrivals. Okay. And I'll be getting onto the sentient oil pretty soon as well. So the point is that this control of the existing societies goes back to key areas as to why the Vatican had to smash those who took over the Vatican. And again, there's a whole history of modern Christianity and why you have the what's he called, the name for it? The old churches in Russia and Eastern Europe, and that breach of Christianity into two types. And this is another whole thing which deals with why they're battling in Syria, because that Christian sect which had to escape, the Druidic Christian sect which had to escape the persecution of St. Patrick, they escaped and finally migrated and settled in Syria. And what's been going on in Syria is a mass genocide of Christians in Syria. Similarly, when in the Ukraine, there was a genocide of the Christians in Ukraine, because that symbolized Russia, the Russian, what's the name of the old churches? It's the name. And so that's happening in a modern era.
Synagogues.
So anything what do you call? It's what type of Christian church? The what?
Not a synagogue.
No, it's the old established church when it divided, Christianity divided in Constantinople. Oh, it's a comp. I can't get the name. Anyway, the point is that there was this move from whatever was in Rome, and Venice has
Orthodox.
Orthodox, that's what it is. The Orthodox Church, right? So you had the Orthodox Church split up, but then you had the so-called Celtic. There's been too much application of the term Celtic into Irish history. It's as if they did everything and nothing happened before that. And this is where these ancient tribes, the Tuatha Dé Danann, the tribe of Dan, were wiped out by the incoming Celtic invaders. And then they're talking about then the next stage up from that is, well, you've got the Saxon invaders, which came from Central Europe, Germany, and the Germanic, the Anglo-Saxon invasion. And then we have King Arthur. So we have these different social invasions of the British Isles. Okay? Progressively. Right. Does this add up?
Yes, absolutely.
This is the point about Irish history. If you shift the date to a convenient level, everybody who came after that date are bad, and everybody before that date was good, right? To put things right, okay? So the key to what I'm talking about is that we had a major revolution in Ireland in the 1980s. That's when the talented, creative Irish stayed behind, and the island of the Republic of Ireland had incredible growth, ingenuity, genius, and the creation of incredibly profitable companies. And that was a major first for a long time, that Ireland's youth stayed in Ireland and they actually started doing things amazingly fantastic. And that became the Celtic Tiger. And then what happened after that, there was this hammering of the Irish very conservative political parties. And then we've got the modern era now of what's going on in Ireland. And remember, Sinn Féin is hated in that era. Sinn Féin, a very, very well-organized political party, were hated in the south because the south of Ireland was run by two conservative parties, which meant that the Ireland didn't really get going. It wasn't an industrialized society in the same way that most of Europe and the north of Ireland and Britain had become industrialized. And therefore, they had a labor movement based on the Industrial Revolution, which happened at the end of the 1800s, and the discovery of iron and steam engines and stuff, which created the Industrial Revolution, which is why people are talking, the World Economic Forum are talking about the fourth Industrial Revolution. So these are basically this arrival of beings or whatever from somewhere else, and we can talk about that, has taken control of humanity so that humanity could then establish educated social orders to dig the minerals up from the earth and create technical abilities to go back into space, right? Once that achievement has happened, there is no longer any requirement to have a human race. There's no longer any requirement to have any organic life. That's what carbon zero is all about. And that's what the fourth industrial revolution is all about. And that's what this whole thing about transhumanization and making us into cyborgs in a matrix reality using these mobile phone collapsing consciousness into the a 2D quantum wave function in matrix. And once that's completed, there will be no need for any organic life required on this planet whatsoever.
Right.
And this is the color version of John Irwin's book. Again, this is where a team embedded within the British Army went in and took out a Bilderberger type group in Jarraba. The secrets were in Jarraba, and they got these data banks. Again, these data banks here are high technology devices containing data to contain access and operate interdimensional portals. And this was done by the British soldiers embedded within the British Army in 1957 to 1959. That's when they went in. One step beyond. And one step beyond, you can see they got the Masonic symbol there, the old eye. And these guys went in, and as they went in, these flying saucers were taken off. German flying saucers, I'll put it to you. And this is John Irwin meeting the Egyptian intelligence services, demonstrating to the Egyptians how they were able to, and these are the saucers that John Irwin's team encountered as they went in to take out this Bilderberger type, Davos type meeting, where they wiped everybody out and got this ancient technology. Again, this operates interdimensional portals, stargates. And this was done and achieved in 1959 by a team which were embedded within the British military, but not of the British military. Right. So that meant they had their interdimensional stargate technology way back in 1959. And they had the technology that these things plugged into. These data banks plugged into something which made things happen and give you the information. Right. So we're dealing with this whole era of why they needed to establish a connection with Irish. We are meta creators. We create things, and they needed to capitalize and control that. Now, I'm going to get a picture of a girl who was a Brazil, and in just a second. Now this is when it gets up close and personal. This girl's a very fine girl who was taken out, and her name is there, Renee Marie Brazil. And notice what she's dressed in. Now, this is her funeral. This was she was taken out on the 29th of early December 2020. Now, she is a Brazil. She was U.S. Navy. She was a U.S. Navy multiple abductee and a U.S. Navy military police operative. And she came here to get away from this alien stuff. But what she didn't realize was that when she came here, she was coming to the lion's den, so to speak. And she was about to tell me something. and within hours she was dead. So this connects in plain sight. Mind control
to everything.
US Navy, aliens, the ancient times. Now the point about this dress is it's black and white. That's mind control.
Yeah.
And the back of this funeral commemoration, she was wearing a bright red dress because she was in program. But somebody knew she was about to tell me something, and they did her in that night. So that is an illustration of the history of the influence of the gypsies, the Brazil, High Brazil, an island which comes out of dimension and physically materializes 300 miles off the coast of Ireland. And you then have Brazil in North America, it's South America. And what do you have in the middle of that but Atlantis? And what do you have right beside Atlantis, where the forbidden zone exists, is Bimini Island and Epstein Island. So all of this comes together and it's one bloody mess. And as that poor unfortunate lady who's running the US Department of Justice, whatever her name is, says, we can't prosecute everybody because the whole system will fail. So she's telling us the whole system's run by these things.
Exactly.
So this goes back to the potato famine and why they had to move and kill and poison the food and get the population to leave. So we are dealing with not very nice things.
That was really the British, though, wasn't it? It was the British that were poisoning them.
Is controlled by the Venetian doom cult, which is this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's so disgusting, Miles. We see more and more as we're pulling together, you know, the history from different parts of the globe. We're seeing exactly how the same people, the same group at the top, has been responsible for the destruction of billions and billions of human lives over.
Yeah, and we are talking about the Middle East. And who set up the Middle East? Now, this is the original book that John Irwin published. He lost control of it. But what do you think's going on in the Middle East and continuing to go on in the Middle East? And what are they about to do to Iran? They want the complete obliteration of the Iranian people, which is another seed, prime source human race. And what they're doing is they're going to wait until they get the right number of armaments. And who really runs the United States but the money from certain discrete groups? And Trump will lose that war because he's going to singularly fail in it because it's a military disaster in the making. He's going to be forced to do this war, and we're talking on the whatever the hell it is. It's the 15th, 16th of February. We've just had the Valentine's Day ritual, which was based on some very dreadful things, but we all send cards to people. But the point is that here we have a small group completely controlling the planet, and this is where this sort of a rival scene to happen in relatively recent history. And then we've got to ignore I mean, there's, as I think I said the last time we said something about Tartarian technology. And there's an awful lot of stuff on that seems to have been released on YouTube literally in the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something happened in the 1700s approximately, that sort of era. There was massive blackness, which resulted in huge amounts of static growth of trees, because it's in the tree rings. Something really bad happened, and that's where some researchers are now getting down to where the Tartarian Empire, which ran everything on a much more sophisticated and simpler form of electrical power. And then, of course, that was all poisoned and rewritten in the physics in the late 1800s. And then anybody who still knew about it went and had a party on a boat built in the big city of Belfast by the White Star Line.
Wow.
I mean, why were those ships built in Belfast? All three of them. The Olympic, the Titanic, and the Britannic. They weren't built in Tyne and Weir or Glasgow or someplace, built in the big city of Belfast, which is also connected to the god Baal. That's why it's called Belfirsta, Baal. We don't need to talk too much about that cult either.
No, we don't. It's amazing, you know, when we sit like this and we talk and we see that, as I was saying, no matter where in the world you are, these guys have had their fingers in. I mean, recently having Beverly on the show as well, speaking about Africa and South Africa, and then speaking about that disgusting creature of the night, Cecil John Rhodes, who came and literally, he was kicked out of the Rhodes family because he was so gross with kids. So what does he do? He comes to Rhodesia, has a country named after him, Rhodesia, right? Rhodesia, if you want to look at it like that. Yeah. And where for the...
So there's a little backstory to that.
Yeah.
Now, again, in the 1960s, they wanted to do a lot with Northern Ireland. They wanted to do a lot of social engineering and tests. So they had a wee chat with the provisional with the IRA. The IRA had fought fearlessly against the Parliament, and finally managed to get partition. An independent Ireland finally, but it wasn't actually independent. It was the Irish Free State. And there were key plugins there. And if you want to find what the key little intricacies were about that, you need to ask Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin know all about this. They know about the Irish Free State was still under the Queen, and that's actually what got Martin McGuinness bumped off. He was the number two or the number one in Sinn Féin, and there was a fantastic photograph of Martin McGuinness, this provisional IRA killer, and it's just a whole bloody Sunday thing. And then the other key one is the key point to this was there was a photograph with Martin McGuinness and the Queen. The Queen Elizabeth had come to Belfast. Everybody's happy slappy. Things are happening. The point was that the eye lock between Martin McGuinness and Queen Elizabeth I was rather too friendly. I'm not talking friendly. I'm talking bosom buddy friendly.
Yeah.
Consequently, very soon after that, he developed a very, very unique form of cancer, which was so rare, would only affect 39 people in about 100 years, and he got pumped off. That's a form of poisoning. He was poisoned. And also, when you go back to Lord Mountbatten, and don't even talk about Edward Heath, the head of the Queen's family, Lord Mountbatten, or Battenberg or whatever, he's doing a few things with kids in Donegal. He was told stop it, so he got blown up. He got blown up by MI6 under the name of the provisional IRA, because that's what they do to you in the royal family. If you don't play ball, you're and they're doing that with Andrew. But we have a situation where the IRA, I've been advisedly told, that's the Irish Republican Army who fought for the Republic to break from the British Crown, which didn't actually break from the British Crown. They were asked if they would be able to start another campaign in the 1960s. They said no. So then they had to get that working. So what was actually the provisional IRA was 100% run by MI5 in conjunction with MI6, obviously. And evidence for that is from a British, an MI5 front agent called Christine Joanna Hart, and she was a journalist for the News of the World and the Sunday Times, and she was very good at what she did, and she was an infiltration asset, and this is all over her newspaper articles. And she managed to penetrate the real IRA, which came on after the provisional IRA all signed the peace accord and everybody smiling very nicely at each other. And she explained this before, and the head of the real IRA recognized who Christine Hart was. Bosom buddies, penetration agents run by MI6. But MI6, MI5, the British Army, the American Army, the German Army, they don't fight for the countries which have got the badge on. They are instructed to do wars and battles based on who's pulling the actual strings. So maybe you're a Navy commander. Oh, where the hell is it? This is 00 private caller. Oh God! Oh Jesus! I should switch these off. Right. I don't know how many swear words that was, but it's merely punctual. It's merely verbal punctuation, according to the BBC. If an Irishman swears, it's merely cultural punctuation or something like that. The point about I'm trying to link things together here. So the point about it was that Christine Joanna Hart, who was embedded with the American psychic warfare stuff with Michael Aquino and all this sort of stuff, okay? And the whole Max thing and all this other stuff. Again, the point about one step beyond, this is the old book, is that they were trained one step beyond death. They were taken to a level where they stepped beyond death. This is the original book. Okay, the 16.
What's it called again? Just give it that.
It's One Step Beyond Death. These are the two books. This is the one. The one here is color with many updates. It's One Step Beyond the 16 by John Irwin with a U. This is the new one. Get that one if you can. Well, this is the one with the flying saucers in it. Okay, so this is intricately linking flying saucers with the secret Davos crew. This is 1959, remember? And all the secrets that they were dealing with. Flying saucers, aliens, interdimensional travel, stargates, all mixed up in all this stuff, okay? Epstein, human trafficking, transhumanization, making humans into cyborgs. And once they've done that, Elon Musk and all that, you'll notice Elon Musk has been told you're not going to Mars, you're just going to build stuff on the moon, which is I would say that Musk is probably going to leave SpaceX because that's his big thing he wanted to do, go to Mars. But we're already on Mars because the Germans got there and they had a war there, whatever. And that's all secret space program stuff, SSP. So the point is, this intricately links all the things we're dealing with, interdimensional stuff, ETs, which arrived around about 300-400 years ago, which would echo into our fake linear timeline of about the late 1600s. This brings in Queen Elizabeth I, Fabians, Francis Bacon. That's the key on the G, Saint Germain. I mean, this is Irish origins of civilization. All this is, you see, it's all the Middle East. It's all there.
Wow.
Jesus, the light of the world. I mean, this is. Then why do the Clintons come to a place in northwest Derry? Oh, it's not. I'm gonna do this. They don't like it up. It's interesting that we're getting these spam calls. So they don't like it when you take the batteries out. Right. So where are we with this? Remind me. The point is, these are all connected. These all connect. You've got a beautiful girl who U.S. Navy named with the Brazil. Again, Sophia, who was one of the key basis witnesses that came forward 20 years after I started this thing, 25 years, almost 30 years. She was connected with James Casbolt and the stuff in the super soldier stuff that the British were training. Again, this connects with secret space program. It connects with the Nachtwaffen, the German secret space program, where they established a lot of stuff way down in under the ice. In Antarctica, New Berlin. And one of the ways they did it was to follow the Norwegian whaling fleet to see where the warm water was. The warm water was coming up because it was a lot warmer under the ice, and they could get in underneath that. They get into the center of Antarctica, where they established New Berlin and started talking to lots of people who aren't from around here. Or maybe they're more from around here than we are. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, it totally
We're not
makes
from around
sense.
here.
I'm laughing. Yeah.
Chariots of the gods, you know. Anunnaki and all this. There's so many details here, but I'm trying to sort of simplify it together with the relevance of why Ireland is so important on all this. Because we can meta create, we can outdo quantum computers, and they need that kind of. For instance, another example of this was there was a particular company who wanted people who could interface fully consciously with computer systems, right? So the way they would test you on that is they'd get you needed to have all the network and protocol computer stuff, right? But what they gave you was a video game to play. So you'd play the video game, and what they wanted from you was your ability to interface with the computer, and you became one with the game.
Wow.
So the computer's consciousness would intermix with your consciousness. You see, this is the whole point about John Irwin's people. John Irwin, the whole point of their training was to be trained at a level which is subconscious. It's, you know, when I lift this book up, I'm not instructing my arm to lift it up 1.2 centimeters to the left, move. You're not thinking that level. You're thinking at a fundamental thought level, which is intricate to the brain. Now, this is, again, his stuff. And you've got Egypt. Thank you, John Irwin. You did a really good job. That's from Egyptian Special Forces Intelligence. There he is with all those guys. And he, at the age of 70, was able to outmaneuver and demonstrate this special fighting abilities called the machine, because he was taken, all the people trained in this are taken to a stage where the conscious mind is switched off, and this fighting technique becomes embedded in the subconscious mind. In other words, you immediately react instantly. So their reflex actions are instant. Okay? So that's how they were training them. And in order to do that, you had to switch off the conscious mind and reprogram that later on to say there's no point being trained in something if your conscious mind doesn't know it's there. So then they had to be trained to have the conscious mind knowing they could do this, and their reactions were instant. So that's amazing. Part of the sort of super soldier program.
Yeah, exactly.
Certain types of people would be suitable for it, and certain types wouldn't be, which is why we have the heel prick test in schools in British Isles. I don't know if you have it where you are. They would then be able to select certain children for training, and then they go into the program, and that's what happened with John. Immediately he turned of military age, he was right in there. And then we have the assassination of James Forrestal. Again, his connection with this and how he died, very, very important, James Forrestal. And this is, again, intricate to how they are controlling the armed forces. That's another story. But then he's Irish. He's got connections with all his bloodline stuff.
Very, very, very interesting, Miles. Wow, thank you. I would definitely like to go. Sorry.
What happened is that Ireland, as soon as they woke up and they had this brilliant awakening in the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, and had this immense, explosive creativity and genius, which was collectively called the Irish Tiger, they hammered Ireland, brought in the bureaucrats from Europe, shut down the main political party, which was called Fianna Fáil, and the way it's spelt in English would be Fianna Fáil, but it's the Irish. It was the active, highly effectively the active Conservative Party. It's very difficult to equalize these things in other geopolitics. But they were one of the biggest power parties in Ireland, and they went from 100 mile an hour to zero, and were practically wiped out. That's when they brought in key European Union. Oh bloody hell! Key people, and then that's how Ireland was then hammered, and then they were all injected. They were one of the most compliant states when it came to the injections, and that has really hammered the Republic. And now, of course, the population has been replaced. I think it's now down to 40% of, I don't know those figures exact, but it's the huge population change to wipe out the indigenous Irish within their own country. And meanwhile, in the north, they've got this separate controlling structure which allows them to be completely manipulated, and they're all just walking straight into it, like sleepwalking into this total control of the sanctuary city. We don't have 15-minute cities. We have the sanctuary city, which will be safe for you. That's what's happening in Ireland now.
Wow, that's actually very disturbing, because
it's all very bad, disturbing, not good.
I think, our saving grace here in Africa, especially South Africa, when it comes to this, is quite frankly, a large portion of the country is pretty damn lawless. So, they have a trouble, like in our, they have a trouble controlling that. In our, like with the jab, 69% of South Africans refused the jab. We did not take it.
Well, that is
and
brilliant.
Of course, when it comes, sorry,
that excellent, well done.
Yeah. And then when it comes to, because if you go back to apartheid days, of course, the African people had to carry what was called, we called it the dumb pass, stupid to carry it, right?
Yeah.
So if they wanted to be in white areas after a certain time at night, they had to have their pass with them. And if they were going to different areas, it's horrific what was going on here. But at the same time, that I think is our saving grace now, because never again will an African person carry around a pass to tell them where they can and can't go. That's the thing. European, and when you're looking again at the Tartaria stuff, Miles, and speaking to Guy Anderson,
yes,
he speak the incubator babies. Yes, right. Because and understanding that those Caucasian babies at these baby fairs were really cloned babies and don't have much of a pushback. So they'll be a lot more really compliant. And that makes a lot of sense when you're looking at how after, at the turn of the century, when the orphan trains were being sent all over, kids taken from their mothers after the wars, tragedies like that were just scattered all over the planet. No roots.
Why did you have those wars? Who was controlling?
That was the reason why. That was the reason why, right? Is to split families, to kill the men, separate mothers and children, turn mothers into breeders, because that's fundamentally what they did. They started the lunacy. They passed the Lunacy Act. So when when her husband was killed in one of the wars, it was then deemed she would go crazy and not able to look after the kids. So she would then be locked away under the Lunacy Act, and the kids were then taken and put on these orphan trains. I mean, how horrific is that? There's just so much coming up right now, right, Miles? So much.
But if you look at what's happening with these immigrants, they're all men of fertile fathering age and abilities. Now, they are being promised a big gold and whatever, but what's happening to their families back home in Africa? They're being cleared so that the Chinese can take the whole bloody place over and run it as where the resources are. The next thing that Trump's talked about is Nigeria. Everybody's beginning to prepare a war for the resources of Nigeria and the Congo and Central Africa. The Chinese have been putting in the ports and the motorways. Meanwhile, they know, due to the climate and impending potential catastrophic drop in temperature, that Europe's going to be an ice age. But they don't care about Europe. So
they're taking over,
so they send them, they get rid of the fighting force men in Africa, dump them in Europe, and then it's all going to, we've had so much rain here, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks of rain, well, maybe only 2 days of actual, sky with sunshine. Once those temperatures drop, the amount of rain that's been falling will turn to snow, and nothing's going to work here in Europe, because they've got us all to have banning you from having a proper fire to heat yourself. You're going to be completely dependent on these stupid solar cells and these stupid windmills. How's solar cells going to work when it's covered in snow? I mean, and so they've set the whole of Western Europe up to fail.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And that's why Trump and others are dumping this net zero thing. And China's building coal-fired power stations because they have the information from the first dynasty when this happened before. So they can remember. They have that information available to them. The information from the Western European side was destroyed or captured so that the Vatican took control of that. We don't have the raw information, and and we're being trained to fail, set to fail.
I agree.
Apart from
And
that,
that whole divide and conquer, separation, segregation, all of that.
yeah.
Anyway, Miles, we will definitely. I look
I
forward to having a lot
really
more
strongly
conversations
advise,
like these.
if anybody can get these books, Irish Origins of Civilization by Michael Tazarian, they really are something to have. And that goes way back to the Hyperboreans and the original, what happened to some recovery of those ancient times. Irish Origins of Civilization. Right?
Got that one there. Michael Tazarian, T-A-Z, like as in Tarzan.
Yeah, he hasn't actually put his name on the front cover at all. It's Tsar, basically Tsar. By Michael, actually, it's
Zarian.
let me get this.
Tsararian.
T-S-A-R. Can you see that?
Spell it T-S-A-R.
I-O-N. Tarzarian, like Tsar.
Michael.
He's very modest. He doesn't put... The first edition, 2007. This is... And he's very hard. Can you see that?
Yeah.
There's the ISBN number.
Well, you should be able to get that on Amazon, right?
Well, let's hopefully so. Amazon aren't the most things, and obviously, the only really detailed book on the. I mean, this is published by a British. The key to this is that the whole British. That's why we ended up destroying our most advanced genius fighters, and the comet. All the comet crashes was how they completely sabotaged British industry. And this is the most recent edition. And the ISBN on that is... So from a British perspective, that's why the British industry was wiped out, and of course it all shipped to China. But also from an Irish point of view, Michael Collins, the key people involved with separating Ireland in the early part of the 20th century, Michael Collins, Eamon de Valera, and Lloyd George. They are all in the same boat. And then consequently, from a Russian point of view, Stalin, Trotsky, Lenin, all DVD assets. Mao Zedong, a DVD asset. The long march to take over China had these priests, German advisors. And look what happened to China.
Wow.
So and this is only in the modern era. If you go further back, Lucy Wyatt's book, Approaching Chaos, she talks about the doom cult of Venice. And what did Napoleon do? The doom cult, he invaded and sacked Venice. And look what happened to Napoleon. He was fighting these bastards. And of course, we all know what happened after the Battle of Waterloo. The Rothschilds took over the banks. And then who was originally running the banks but the Knights Templar? And look what happened to them.
Yes.
No, this is a very long, bloody era.
It is. It really, really is.
But they all connect.
Wow.
And who runs the media?
It's all coming together.
Yeah, and the media is run by the
together.
Fabians.
Yep.
Fabian socialism. London School of Economics. A wolf in sheep's clothing. That's their logo.
We should talk about that next time. Actually, that'd be a good one. What do you think?
Yeah.
Media. How the
Media,
media, I mean,
BBC's all Fabian. Even their central switching system is called Fabian. That's why the BBC doesn't tell you anything that you don't want to hear. And that's why we needed pirate radio in Britain to play a bloody record in the 1960s. And there's my Kiss FM there.
Well, you're doing a sterling job of doing Pirate FM, Kiss FM, Basis Project, everything, all of it you're doing now, all at the same time.
Well, right now we've got a dead website, so I've got things to do, and I'm getting phone calls during this, so I'm obviously stirring a few wasps' nests.
Yes, but don't worry, even though your website might be temporarily down,
we've got to sort this out. It's now 10 days now.
Well, we look forward to
a brilliant job, Chantal.
Sorry, say that again.
You're doing a brilliant job, Chantal, but none of this malarkey with the hand. But you need to check that out. What happened? What was going on there?
Yeah, I am. That's what I'm doing. So I heal. I don't go to doctors. I heal myself.
Yeah, so well, there's 2 phone calls this afternoon, doctors.
No, don't want them. No, thanks. Yeah. You're doing a fantastic job as well, Miles. Thank you so much. And so are our viewers, because they are always supporting, sharing, caring. And I want to say thanks to you guys and girls as well for being here again this afternoon. Like, share, subscribe. Get the show out there, get the algorithms up. People need to know this information. So many people are just looking at what's happening and who's going to change the world and blah, blah, blah. That's the diversion. We have to look, and in order to change what we're seeing now, we have to understand where it went rotten to begin with. Right? Or where the source of poison is coming in. So that's it. So this is why I say we go back, we listen to these shows, we read this information, and we understand how it all comes together, because only through knowledge can we then transcend and understand who's who in the zoo. Let us work together.
Well, I just looked at some of the chat there, George Bernard Shaw, but also who wrote Alice in Wonderland?
What's his name?
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, but who wrote that?
Who wrote that?
Lewis Carroll.
Yeah. Ireland. It's one of the biggest mind control triggers around. The yellow brick road.
Wow.
Click, click, click with your red shoes. And what do the red shoes refer to when the Pope wears them?
Yeah, the kids.
All that stuff. Eyes wide shut. I didn't say that. You're doing a great job. And give my regards to Beverly. Apparently she's sunning herself in Florida or something at the moment. Bloody disgrace when there's pouring rain here to suffer from. Weeks of it.
Well, I think she needs a good break. So that's fantastic. She'll take a break. And
probably working very hard, and I'll get scolded later.
Thank you, Miles. Appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Good. Goodbye.
Okay, everybody. God bless. Miles, anything you want to share with the viewers? Where you?
We're having a full disclosure, international disclosure, in the same place, Pusey. That's in Bouverie Hall in Pusey, and that's the 19th, 20th, and 21st of June. And we'll try to have a few other little external activities then. And that's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, third weekend of June. And those tickets will be on sale when we get the website fixed.
Nice. Well, that's the website address. It's not obsolete. It's just currently down. So keep checking it, guys. And we will see you back with Miles next week, Monday. Take it easy, all you beautiful people. We will, and I'll see you not tomorrow, the next day, Wednesday, with Dr. York, Prince on Solutions, and then Double Trouble with Jesse. Take it easy, everybody. God bless you all. And if you can't be good, just be good at it.